Welcome to Meyer's Megafictional Musings. Today I want to do a video that's going to highlight female authors. And thinking about the reasons why, it's kind of hard to pinpoint, I suppose. I mean, being such a big David Foster Wallace fan, I have read a lot just recently more about what had happened with some of the women in his life years ago. So I became a little bit more aware of that, and not to mention the fact I look at my bookshelf and there's a big gap. There's a glaring gap with female authors. But then also, as I was planning this video and the titles I wanted to highlight, you realize pretty quickly some of them are monumental landmarks in my personal reading journey for sure. So it seems to me I just haven't been necessarily exposed to enough female authors as well, and that's fault of my own also. But just seeing some of the titles that people are reading in the community or whatnot do seem to be primarily written by men, especially the books I love, the big doorstops, right? Or postmodern experimental fiction that I try and challenge myself with. It just seems like there's not as many women authors. At first I wanted to do this video on International Women's Day, I believe was last week. Didn't get a chance to, but I'm doing it now. So yeah, I hope you enjoy. As I said, some of the titles are really, really important to me. And as always, I'd love to hear your comments on some of them. So as we do this video, there's a nice little sunrise here. We'll see how it is, so enjoy. Virginia Woolf. This should be the last, well, this should be the least surprising, I meant, of any of the female authors I want to highlight here. But I have not read Virginia Woolf, and I'm very excited to. I picked this up in our only used bookstore in town, and as I mentioned with a couple posts on Instagram, it was a really, really cool bookstore, but it was very unorganized, and they had piles of books everywhere. And as I was waiting to pay, I'm kind of frantically browsing, and guess what I find? I find Virginia Woolf, which I hadn't before, and then I also found a copy of Ulysses, which I picked up. It's the original 1922 text. It's all annotated by the previous owner. And anywho, so I did pick up Virginia Woolf. Now, why I'm drawn to her for sure, not to mention the fact that she would for sure be considered one of the, I think greatest writers of her generation, from how I understand her work. And it's very stream of consciousness oriented, which I'm really, really drawn to for sure. So I'm excited to explore Virginia Woolf. So I picked up To the Lighthouse. I know it was between that or Mrs. Dalloway would be considered her strongest work, I guess. So yeah, Virginia Woolf. So Virginia Woolf is to be read. I do want to give some recommendations as well for everyone. I hope that you benefit from these. Many of you probably know the work of Jennifer Egan. She is one of my favorite authors. She's amazing. I read A Visit from the Goon Squad many years ago. I think that would be considered her magnum opus. Loved it, got it from my library. And then later on when this came out, Manhattan Beach, I got it from the library as well and was instantly blown away, completely floored by this novel. It was like top 10 favorite for me. And I've since reread it. And I was just like buzzing with excitement. I think I lent it to I just pushed it on a friend and got a extension on the hold at the library. But I love this book. She is just a remarkably assured writer that can do it all. Right from the beginning of Manhattan Beach, it pulled me in. I knew I was going to love this book, and I flew through it, as I said. So I would say Manhattan Beach, yeah, it's sort of a coming of age, period piece combinations, kind of thriller it read like for me a little bit. Our narrator is a young woman who is contributing to the war effort during World War II, and she trains to become a diver, among so many other things. But naturally at the time, being a diver wasn't a typical female job, but she becomes enmeshed with this attractive mob boss guy who has ties with her father and her family history, and they have kind of a romance, and just gripping right off the hop. And highly recommend Jennifer Egan. I know she's got one called The Keep as well that I have yet to get to, but I'm very excited to do that someday as well. Another to-be-read title. I'd love to hear your comments or thoughts on Wuthering Heights by Bronte. A very, very old Victorian-style book that I picked up for very, very cheap. I was glad I found it. I had heard of it, obviously, just engaging with the online community and seeing titles. Very excited. I mean, I feel like I like that Victorian time period, actually, and these sweeping family drama type stories. I really do enjoy those, and it's supposed to have some like gothic elements and whatnot. So excited to try Emily Bronte. So this next author is, I think, pretty polarizing, but I'd be lying if I said she wasn't a big part of my journey when I first started reading a long time ago. And it's Ayn Rand. And I read a book called The Fountainhead. I was exposed to it when I really started reading heavy in my early 20s. I didn't read in high school as much. I was too preoccupied with girls and soccer, what have you. But my friend was reading The Fountainhead, and he was telling me about it. This is when, I don't know, 2004 or something, and ended up getting a copy of it from a bookstore, used bookstore, and yeah, you know, say what you want about her philosophy back then. I believe it was called Objectivism, excuse me. But I just loved it. I loved the story. I loved the writing. I was blown away. Now, again, so much of it is just part of, you know, time and place you are in life when you read some of these books. I certainly would never, I don't think, reread any more Ayn Rand. I never got to Atlas Shrugged, for example. Another to-be-read title for me at some point is going to be Ducks Newburyport by Lucy Ellmann. I tried this when it first came out in 2019, but it wasn't a strong effort on my part. I had to put it aside. I guess at the time I just couldn't get with the fact that, and all that, get past the writing style. But as I've always said, become a better reader lately through this community, in part. I want to try it again, no doubt, because clearly she is doing something here. It's experimental fiction, would it not be? Very unique sounding book that's massive, which I love. So I'm very excited to try Lucy Ellmann again. Another pretty non-surprising recommendation is the work of Zadie Smith. Now, I didn't bring my 2 books I have from her, and I won't spend too much time here because we're all aware of her talent, I think. I bought White Teeth at my thrift store quite a few years back when I had heard her name mentioned as I was reading more and more, and it was mentioned alongside these other postmodern behemoths like, you know, David Foster Wallace. And so I knew I wanted to read Zadie Smith, and I did get White Teeth and read it almost probably 3 years ago now, and absolutely loved White Teeth. Kind of much for the same reasons as I talked about with Jennifer Egan. I think she's just an extremely well-rounded, engaging author who has complete confidence and command. White Teeth has to be considered one of the great debut novels that I've ever read. And I was just struck by the sincerity of the characters, among other things. I've also read recently her newest collection of essays, Intimations, which was great. And I also have since purchased, I found her title On Beauty, which I hope to get to sometime in the future. So Zadie Smith is a fabulous author. You probably know that. Another to-be-read for me soon is Elizabeth Aldridge, Ruthless Little Things. Now, I'm not sure how many of you have heard of this title, but it was brought to my attention by the booktuber Derek Main, who does a fabulous review of this book, and he sold me full on. It sounds like I would like it. I mean, it's searing, graphic, visceral, stylistic, literary ride is how I understand it, by a very exciting new young author. Yeah, it sounds pretty hard-hitting, so I want to try and get my hands on Ruthless Little Things by Elizabeth Aldridge. I hope to get to the work of Hilary Mantel as well someday. Look at the size of this paperback. It's called A Place of Greater Safety. It is huge, so I bought this. I have not read her yet, as I said. She also has a highly regarded title called Wolf Hall. I see this book everywhere. I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing. I don't know what you think about that, but I'd love to hear your thoughts, comments on Hilary Mantel. This is another big book that won the Booker Prize in 2009, which I'm going to talk about in a second, the Booker Prize. But this is also big, and from what I understand, great historical fiction, really, but I don't know. So I'd love to hear your thoughts on Hilary Mantel, who I'm very excited to explore. So my reading world changed when I read Infinite Jest for the second attempt and got through it, and exposed to more work by David Foster Wallace. Things really changed for me, no doubt. And for some reason during that time, on a side note, I was kind of interested in the Booker Prize for whatever reason. And I found myself Googling and searching previous winners and books that were shortlisted or what have you. Now this next title is an amazing book that I hope to explore again in the future. So it's called, and again, I feel like it doesn't get as much love as it might, even though it won the Booker Prize in 2013. It's a book called The Lumineers by Eleanor Catton. Now, here's a juicy little tidbit. She is the youngest ever winner of the prize. I'm pretty sure I read that, and it's also the longest book to win this award. So naturally, as I said, I was really into Booker winners. She was born in Canada, and she is a young, talented writer. Wow, I mean, and it's a huge hardcover book, supposed to be very complex, and I just want to talk about it a little bit. It's utterly mesmerizing at first when I jumped in and started reading this, you guys. But I did become a little disoriented, and I did finish this novel, and I don't remember a whole. Well, I remember it, but not. I want to read it again, is what I'm saying. I'm excited to revisit it and extract all I can from it, because it's either if I'm being very honest, I think it's either a bit mishmashy and scattered and overrated, or it's an intricate masterpiece. Because as I said, it did win the Booker in 2013, and I'm inclined to believe the latter upon my reread of this book. Now, it's set in New Zealand during the gold rush, and other places for sure, but in the 1860s, and it just contains multitudes. An intertwined cast of characters with, as I said, there's complexity in it with multiple narrations, and she incorporates the 12 signs of the zodiac really effectively, I think, in this book. As I said, I want to take it all in again. There are some supernatural elements, I remember. Yeah, so I am very excited to reread The Lumineers by Eleanor Catton and unlock its mysteries. This is her second book, actually. She wrote, her first one is highly regarded as well. It's called The Rehearsal, set at a girls' school or something like that. Highly acclaimed as well. So, Eleanor Catton, check it out. I also want to mention Hanya Yanagihara. Many people obviously would know her book called A Little Life, which I ended up reading on my phone, hearing all the buzz around that book. That was also a Booker winner. It's pretty polarizing, I get a sense. And there's no denying, though, I think, the talent of this writer. Like, what a hard-hitting book. But I would vehemently say, actually, her first novel, The People in the Trees, is a much more enjoyable and accessible and just an overall better book for me. I absolutely loved this book. I was blown away, actually. I mean, this story was about a group of scientists who discover, or a scientist, he discovers a race of people on this island who live well past the age of 100, like all of them. And it's tied into this magical turtle that they consume. And there's much more to it than that. So it's a very scientific-oriented book, but thrilling, very, very exciting. There's drama, and it's very smart, and I was blown away by People in the Trees. And again, say what you want about A Little Life, but I think there's no denying the talent there. I mean, I finished that book and was pretty affected by that, absolutely. So another great female author. Okay, guys, I hope you were able to take something away from this video, whether it was a recommendation or just a thought, anything, to be read pile. Let me know what you think. Please drop a like or a subscription, better yet a comment. I'd love to get any type of discussion going. I love talking about books, especially these big ones. So yeah, I need to explore more female authors. And I'm really excited to get to some of these, particularly if you're interested in a reread or a read, whatever. You want to explore The Lumineers with me, I'd be happy to do that with you people. This book is huge, but I want to get to it again soon. Very intriguing. So I hope you're all doing well. You're probably going to hear from me again pretty soon. I'm going to be doing a little bit of a short review on William Faulkner's Light in August. This is my first Faulkner, and absolutely loving him. So yeah. Hope you're all doing well, staying safe. Stay positive, of course, and test negative. Later.